Queen's Plate. Bruce's Mill secured the role of Queen's Plate favorite with his gritty win in the Plate Trial and looks to give owner Earl Mack back-to-back victories in Canada's signature race. Coronation Futurity winner Parental Pressure is the latest hero of a lineage started 33 years ago by his owners, who bought the foundation sire for a mere buck. Road Rush is a formidable part of the Frank Stronach 3-horse entry, but trainer Danny Vella has been rushed to make up for valuable time loss because of minor injury. Basqueian is rosy and vibrant with a bounding stride and the tenacity of a bulldog. This kind of stout interim prepping will make him a formidable foe around the payoff. Von Fleet is by no means least of the Stronach color bearers. He's by a champion and out of a champion and has a dossier that expands vividly with each outing. Comet Shine's penchant for the turf earned him the role of Canada's top juvenile colt last year, but he'll need plenty of stretch motivation to give Sampson its third Plate win. Lauren and Kathy Berg, Cinderella runner Frida Creton, the pride of Western Canada, has a Rocky Mountain build and a graceful stride that would span the prairies. Jack Brunton's Tall in the Saddle has flirted on the edges against the best and has the services of Hall of Famer Sandy Hawley, who is hopeful of a record 5th win in the Plate. Tuxedo Landing is fast and furious, and trainer Johnny Cardella, who stretched the speed of Bompego to win the 1983 Plate, has similar plans for this Silver Streak. Dynamite Stuff is potentially explosive, and a blast of speed from his dam, tempered with great stamina from his sire, should have him going in the right direction. Baron Road is by Canadian Horse of the Year Fleet, whose many accomplished sons run best with restful time between races, and this one has been purposely freshened.
You know, it's interesting, no fillies in this field. The last filly to win the Plate was Dan Smartley. Also missing, Jim, many big names. Winfields, King Haven, Steve Stavro. When you talk about King Haven, there's also a very special person missing from the King Haven operation itself.
Of course, Brandon, that would be a good friend of yours and mine. Of course, Mr. Bud Wilmot and his wife Ivy as well. It was a great run of things for King Haven in his prime, of course, and here we see him celebrating with Ali Deed. But I think among the pomp and pageantry of this particular day, it's a good time to celebrate his memory. He had a great impact, not only in racing, but as a humanitarian. He's missed already, and I know I miss him.
Numbers, pertinent numbers this afternoon. 237 of that purse to the winner, 237,000. Enjoy as we take an up-close look at some of the horses. Number 9 is Prix de Creton from Alberta. And Jim Bannon, 39 centers in Alberta betting on this, including Rocky Mountain House, but that's near Caroline, Tall in the Saddle, named after Kurt Browning, so I think maybe the betting will be split out of Rocky Mountain House.
This is a great horse, and I think he's going to be a very good turf horse. He had to take a 72-hour van ride, of course, from Calgary to get here. It's tough for us to go on the subway to work. This horse came 72 hours on a 2-horse trailer and had to go to work and didn't disgrace himself. And I think there are better things coming today. He's running on Lasix.
If we can stay on this horse for just a minute, the last Western bred horse to win was Merger in 68, Whistling C1 in 65. A couple of Western-owned horses winning in the 80s. Driving Home, Hal Yerkser, remember him, Jim, in the rain in 1980, and Dave Kapczynski's son of Briardic in 1982. Now there is Tall in the Saddle. Sandy Hawley rides the Brunton horse, named after the television show produced by John Brunton. And let's bring in Dan Kenny on this horse. A great story here. Kurt Browning, the star of the television show, won the Lou Marsh Trophy as Canada's outstanding athlete. Hawley has twice won it. So Dan Kenny, some thoughts on Tall in the Saddle?
Well, as you look at Tall in the Saddle, you see how he came by his name, a very long-legged, lean, 1.25 mile type, a galloper. You mentioned, Brian, off the top of the show that Winfields is not here as an entrant, but Winfields has the breeding. Silver Deputy out of a Victoria Park mare on Tall in the Saddle.
We look at the number 2 horse. This is Comet Shine, Jim. Unusual to see Sampson not favored.
This horse was a great 2-year-old, in fact, good enough to be the champion, but sometimes in that tricky transformation from a 2 to a 3, some make a quantum leap and turn out to be great. This horse has been more gradual. He's got a great stretch drive. It's
an 11-horse field. A quick word, Dan Kenny, Parental Pressure. the early #2 choice in the betting.
The horse invariably runs his race. He went to Cleveland on a hot day and bled. He gets Lasix in cool weather. He is definitely a major player today.
All right, the walking ring as the horses begin to come out on the track here at Woodbine for the 135th running of the Queen's Plate. Very quickly again, let's take a look at the odds, and the story is just how close the bettors have made this field some, 16 minutes to post, Jim?
It is very competitive, Brian, in a highly positive way. 9-5, that's a $560 payoff. Both Bruce's Mill and Parental Pressure are getting a little bit of money, but the one thing you should note is there is a huge show bet on the entry, so any one of them in the money, and there's the payoff.
Dan Kenny was talking about Parental Pressure. Parental Pressure won the definitive race for 2-year-olds, the Coronation. So right now, let's go up close and personal with Parental Pressure.
Parental Pressure is aptly named. A son of privilege by a champion sire out of a champion dam, and he was quick to add to the family tree. Success that put him on destiny's road to the Queen's Plate.
The Queen's Plate has always been our objective. Even before he was born, it was our objective. And we've been talking about that for a long time. Everybody went into this venture optimistically, and we've remained optimistic throughout, and he's given us no reason not to remain optimistic. And for us, the Queen's Plate is Canada's Kentucky Derby. It is the most important race.
The Ohio Derby was seen as a viable and preferred alternative to the traditional plate trial prep, but for the hopeful itinerant, it was a failed venture.
We had decided that the horse Parental Pressure runs a good deal better when his races are well spaced, and we were looking forward right from the start to the Prince of Wales and Breeders' Stakes, and we really didn't want to have him run 3 times within a 4-week period. He's been training with ferocious intensity. He's got the eye of the tiger right now. I think that loss really increased his resolve, and he is just he's ready to run his race.
And we'll find out just how ready to run he is in about 15 or 16 minutes from now. 14 minutes to post. The post parade is up next. You're watching CBC's exclusive live coverage of the 1994 Queen's Plate from Woodbine in Torpede.
It's interesting to see if they'll use it or not, because he is trained by Bob Tiller while the other 2 are trained by Danny Vella. He's a natural speed horse, has the inside post, and there's a story because the last horse to win from the rail was Northern Dancer.
Second part of the entry is Basqueian, huge horse, and as we saw, getting big support here.
Great race in the trial, gets Lasix today. He's a gelding though, Brian. A gelding hasn't won since '83 when Bompego did.
A lot of big horses in this field. Here is the exception.
He makes up for his diminutive size with his graceful stride. He covers a lot of ground. He's very effective.
And we talked about Ernie Samuel and Sampson Farm. The #2 horse is Comet Shine.
In direct contrast to Road Rush, this is a giant of a horse who has a huge stride, and watch for him in the stretch. He'll be finishing.
Jack Brunton's Toll in the Saddle, named after the Kurt Browning show. Sandy Hawley's in pink. He is always a factor.
The cool weather is particularly agreeing with this horse today. In his past races, he's always wanted to sweat up a little bit and get on edge, but he's cool today.
He is cool indeed. And here's a cool animal. This is the only undefeated horse in the field, Jim.
Again, a gelding, Brian. Interesting that a gelding hasn't won since '83, but this horse is robust. I don't think we saw all that this horse had to offer when we were watching the trial. I think there's lots left in the tank. He's kind of a gentle giant, a cardiac kid.
Here's a horse bred by a good friend of ours.
That would be Rick Kennedy, of course, a great enthusiast for the sport, someone who always promoted racing. He's a breeder now, a little bit on the sidelines, but I know his heart is in this race, and happy to see a son of a fleet.
Now, I mentioned a gray horse. Roan and Gray are now coupled in racing terms.
This is a horse with a good deal of speed, and Johnny Cardella, who trained Bompego to win in '83, had Larry Attard as his choice of rider that day, and they're united again on this one, who has speed.
And here is Parental Pressure, sired by the champion Regal Classic.
And he is very cool as well today, Brian, and horses that get LASIK sometimes have that demeanor. I expect him to run a huge race with a great tactical position throughout.
Okay, you mentioned huge. Here is a huge horse that loves this distance.
He's an interesting horse because he has so much stamina on the top, being by Dynaformer, which may eventually take him to the grass, and he has tremendous speed on the bottom. He's from the same dam that produced the great sprinter Antique Auction.
And here's the Alberta entry with a ton of eastern support.
He looks a little better than he did coming out of the paddock in the trial. He was fretting that day. He seems to be on his toes and ready to go today.
Well, the number 9 horse is Prix de Crouton. Let's stay with that subject. Dan Kenny, as we go back to you.
Number 7 is Parental Pressure.
Well, we're obviously having some audio problems there. Dan Kenny having...
Definitely every horseman's dream, I guess, to every Canadian horseman's dream to run a horse in the Queen's Plate. And to have a colt of Crouton's caliber going in is just well beyond my wildest dream, that's for sure.
Ghostly Enoch Park looks an unlikely spot indeed to launch a journey to the Queen's Plate. Out here, Woodbine is more rumor than reality. But it was Kathy Berg who noticed the breeding similarity of their colt to French champion Suave Dancer, and dreams of glory began to rise. Dreams known only to the couple toiling in solitude in northern Alberta.
Enoch is just outside of Edmonton. It's an Indian reserve where a few years back they used to have some bee races. It's one of the most natural racetracks around. Kind. Everything is kind about it. The soil that he walks on, that he trains on. A nice soft cushion in his stall. And just a little freedom to be a horse rather than trapped in a stall 23 hours a day.
They turn for home 3/16 of a mile.
Being champion 2-year-old in Alberta led to this race at Tampa Bay as Canadian Mickey Walls rode to an upset victory in the Tampa Bay Derby. American owners were willing to pay $250,000 for a half interest in the colt, a lot of lettuce for the Crouton. The Bergs declined the offer, and soon afterward the horse was injured. Had their fairy tale come to an end? And what about all that money?
Yes, that's a lot of money. But, the joy in the way the colts changed our lives, money isn't an issue. It's, you know, like we're comfortable. We've been broke before. We can be broke again. We owe the colt. He's been so kind to us in a lot of different ways, taking us places we never imagined to go.
And now the Odyssey brings these proud Albertans back to Canada, to Woodbine and the Queen's Plate. Can they win it? Let's see. Once upon a time...
I might wake up someday. I thought I had when I was in Keeneland, when I sitting in the grandstand one day watching some of the horses run, like Louis and Holy Bull, and watching riders like Lafitte Pincay. But shortly after that, our dream was kind of set back a little bit because we had some leg problems and went back to Alberta where we were a little more comfortable and got things worked out. And to make it back down here now is just super.
Well, I apologize for the audio glitch. What I wanted to add is I've spent a lot of time with Western horsemen. I respect them. There's a soft spot in my heart, and I'm really rooting for Prix de Crouton.
Bruce's Mill and Parental Pressure in the second flight, and those horses making a run from there.
There's a look at Sandy Hawley, tall in the saddle. Let me ask you about the Coronation Futurity. I mentioned it being the definitive 2-year-old race. Some bad feelings out of that race between Parental Pressure and Bruce's Mill.
Well, what a great mix-up it was through the stretch. When they came to the top of the stretch, Bruce's Mill, who was just learning what it was all about, came up alongside Parental Pressure, and Parental Pressure gave him such a whack that I think he started the grudge, and that sort of knocked Bruce's Mill off stride, and they came to the wire separated by not too much. And it will be interesting to see in this trip today if everybody gets a clean trip or if the grudge will continue.
Tall in the saddle is what we call a stalker. Jim, break this race down strategy-wise for me, because 1 year ago there was so much speed, yet the speed horses all held up coming out of the gate, and Craig Perrette simply took off.
In the last 2 races we've seen leading up to this, Brian, first of all, the Heresy Breeders' Cup, Bruce's Mill got down along the inside, and he hated it, and it took forever for Perrette to urge him forward to win. When we looked at the plate trial, it was Basqueian looking for room. And strange things happen, of course, as we saw in the Kentucky Derby when there was an unlikely Gopher Gin in front.
At this point, let's bring in the Award of Merit winner, the voice of thoroughbred racing here at the Ontario Jockey Club, Woodbine Racetrack. We're looking at Road Rush, the small part of the entry from Frank Stronach. I'm speaking of the voice of Woodbine, Dan Loisel. Dan, come on in, join Jim Bannon and myself. You were saying to me this morning about this being a bettor's race.
It certainly is, Brian. You know, we've had standouts in recent years. In fact, in 5 of the last 6 Queen's Plate, the winners paid even money or less. This isn't going to happen today. We look down at the tote board. The slight favorite, the Frank Stronach entry of Basqueian, Road Rush, and Von Fleet. They're 8-5. Second choice in the wagering at 9-5 is Bruce's Mill, and the third choice at 5-2 is number 7, Parental Pressure. Now we're waiting on 3 horses to load. Parental Pressure, winner of last year's Coronation Futurity. Dave Penna seeking his first Queen's Plate victory. Then the longest shot on the board, Dynamite Stuff at 70-1. And we wait on the Alberta bred Prix de Creton. They're at the post. They're off in the Queen's Plate Stakes. Tuxedo Landing sent right to the front. Von Fleet toward the inside. Bruce's Mill. Parental Pressure is on the outside. And Tuxedo Landing has grabbed the early lead. Dynamite Stuff and Prix de Creton up on the outside as they move in front of us for the first time, and Penna has Parental Pressure right at the neck of Tuxedo Landing, the first quarter in 23-1. It's Tuxedo Landing, Larry Attard nursing that one on a 3/4 length advantage. Parental Pressure right at his flank in second, Prix de Creton is third. Tall in the saddle, saving ground. Bruce's Mill is currently in 5th position, back about 3 lengths off the lead. Baron Road is right to the outside of Bruce's Mill. Then Dynamite Stuff. Von Fleet has spotted Tuxedo Landing about 8 lengths. And then we have a Road Rush and Basqueian, and the trailer is Comet Shine. Half a mile in 46-4. 5 furlongs to run on the Queen's Plate, and Tuxedo Landing has led every step of the way, but he's being stalked by Parental Pressure. Prix de Creton is third, 2.5 lengths off the lead. Tall in the saddle is fourth. Bruce's Mill is currently 5th, back 4.5 lengths off the lead. Then Basqueian. To the inside of that one is Von Fleet, then Dynamite Stuff and Road Rush. They come to the 3/8 pole. Tuxedo Landing leads through 3/4 in 1:11 flat, and Parental Pressure is coiled and ready to make his move, and there he goes. Parental Pressure up to join Tuxedo Landing as they come to the quarter pole, and Basqueian, a menacing presence as they turn for home, and Basqueian forges to the front. It's Basqueian at the head of the stretch. Parental Pressure is second. Bruce's Mill is third. Road Rush a closing fourth. They are in the final furlong. Basqueian leads by 5 lengths, a 16th out, and Basqueian wins the Queen's Plate with disdainful ease. Bruce's Mill on the inside will finish second. Parental Pressure third. Road Rush fourth. Comet Shine got a check. He was 5th. Von Fleet 6th. Tall in the saddle. Prix de Creton. Tuxedo Landing. Dynamite Stuff. And Baron Road. Jack Lozon, his second Queen's Plate victory. He won it with Regal Intention in 1988. 2:03-2. Time for the 1.25 mile. Brian, Jim, Jack said after the plate trial he was going to win, and he did.
Gelding. win since Bompago in 1983, as we have some audio problems here. Again, Basqueian winning, and Jim Bannon, as I was saying, the first gelding since Bompago in 1983.
Brian, when you have enough quality, you can overcome any jinx. Down the backstretch, it looked desperate for a while for these horses from the Stronach entry because they were so far back. But when we looked at the teletimer with a half in 46 and 4, it was obvious they were going too fast in front. And when horses started coming from behind, they had every chance to run by the beleaguered leaders. Out of the gate, a pretty clean start, actually. A little squeezing there on the 5-horse Barron Road, but he was a non-factor in the race. I think everybody had the positions they really wanted, and believe me, when things go this quickly up front, somebody has to start sagging by the quarter pole. We come around the far turn now, and we look at the blue silks with the white hat from 4th on the outside, and that, of course, is the winner, Basqueian. At this point, Tuxedo Landing is doing all he can to try and contain Parental Pressure. Parental Pressure gets the lead at the top of the stretch, but here comes Basqueian full of life on the outside with the blue silks, the white hat and the white nose, and in behind in the mauve and the maroon is Bruce's Mill. He just doesn't have enough today, and the battle is joined, just as we thought. The 3 horses that were going to be there, Basqueian goes to the lead under Jack Lazan and widens coming to the stretch. Jack Lazan has been in this position before, picking up what looked like the worst part of the entry and winning. He did it with Regal Intention in '88 to beat Regal Classic, and it looks like maybe Pedigree perhaps got to the number 7 horse near the end. Parental Pressure, he drifted, maybe didn't want to go this far, and Bruce's Mill stayed on very well to be 3rd, and that was a great demonstration by Jack Lazan.
Owner Frank Stronach winning his first Queen's Plate. He first ran in the plate in 1973, was second with Sinister Purpose, and this is the first time a part of a 3-horse entry has won since the filly Dance Smartly. Basqueian, ridden by Jack Lazan and trained by Danny Vella. Right now, let's go down to Terry Lytle.
Thank you very much, Brian Williams. And coming into my shot now is the winner of the Queen's Plate. Congratulations, Jack. You said after the trial this horse will never be beat again, and indeed he wasn't.
Oh, he run brilliant. I knew he wasn't going to get beat today. Had all confidence in him. He run the way that I thought he would.
He came way wide and made a huge move. Is that what you were expecting?
The track's been better out there, and I just took all the circumstances in my own mind, and I said, the heck with it. I'm going around. I'm not going to get him stopped like I did the other day.
You certainly did not. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Dan?
Right.
Terry, we noticed in the walking ring before the race, Frank, you were a bit subdued. Is that part of the tension of saddling the favorite? How do you feel now that you got your plate?
Not really. Life's been good to me, and you know, if you be in racing for a long time, you know you won't win every race. And I've been winning many races, big races, and naturally it's nice to win the Queen's Plate.
Well, we've got the replay here that you and your son Andy, who joins us, can enjoy. Here he is. I mean, the race is over, but look at the stride. You should be proud having bred the winner.
Well, he's a powerful horse.
Andy Stronach, let's bring you in. Andy, understand that you had something to do with the mating, trying to get the same cross that clicked with the Great Glorious Song.
Yeah, we tried to throw a halo mare with the Herberger line stallion, and Glorious Song was a great filly that we had. She won the Eclipse Award, got beat half length of Spectacular Bid, and we want to do the same mating, and sometimes those things work and sometimes they don't.
Well done, father and son. Brian Williams.
And Dan Kenny, the good news is they win the plate. The bad news is there's no stud fee. It's a gelding. We'll return live to Woodbine. Frank Stronach and Basqueian, the unofficial winners.
I drive a school bus for a living. I've been driving a school bus for 5 years, and I love it. I know safety, and I'm also a mom, too. Safety's a big thing on the new Ford Aspire. Look at this car.
The picture, and we're going to get you to that winning photo, but what a moment, your first Queen's Plate win, Danny Vella.
Oh, I'm so thrilled. I just don't know what to say. I'm excited, and it's a thrilling day, you know, and it's something I dream of all my life. You know?
And you dreamt of this photo. I'm going to let you scoot and have it because I see all your contingent waving you over there. Congratulations to you. Brian?
Terry, as we look at Basqueian, Jack Lauzon is down. Parental Pressure was once a speed horse, and I said to you this morning, Jim Bannon, I said, what if he goes out as a speed horse? A little different strategy maybe today for Parental Pressure here.
Yes, he obviously got used up in the battle. He made a tactical gamble. It didn't quite work. I'm not sure that if he had been ridden any other way, it would have been a different result. That may have been his peak to run a mile and an eighth.
Well, hang on. We'll have the official presentations. Jubilant Frank Stronach on the left of your screen with the winner of the 1994 Queen's Plate, Basqueian. We'll return live to Woodbine Racetrack in Toronto. There's the 94.
Frank Stronach.